if you are a student or if you're attached as a staff with an academic institute, you can use an education account on Onshape for free. If you are a hobbyist or if you are a designer and doing some non-commercial work on Onshape, you can use a public maker plan that will give you a free account. But the only point that you should remember is that for a public maker plan, any work that you do on Onshape goes online and stays online for everyone else to see. So it's not really a private thing. All your designs goes public. Now, those who have registered, I sent you over email some of the designs that we are going to do today. Now, what I will do is I will keep this PDF file open on the side so that you can see what I'm trying to achieve. And on the left-hand side of the screen, I will show how to do the sketch to achieve the design that is given on the right-hand side. Now, before I start off, I just want to say that as a basic primitive, to create a 3D model or to create a 3D structure, what we need is a 2D sketch. A 2D sketch is like a drawing that you do on a piece of paper. And to create a 3D model from a 2D sketch is primarily done by extrusion. There are other things that are available to create a more complex design, but just remember for the time being is that if we have a rectangular sketch, this is a 2D drawing, but when you extrude this drawing, what you do is you kind of create a 3D model from a 2D sketch. This is known as an extrusion. We will not go into too much details about 3D modeling today. We have our second part on 3D modeling that is going to take place on 5th, that means the coming Monday, the same time. Of course, there's a DST kicking in this Sunday. So for someone outside of Australia, the time might be shifted by 1 hour. Now, this is how an extrusion works. But today, what we'll do is we will only talk about how to create 2D shapes. If you have any questions or queries while we are proceeding, just use the chat box or use your mic to speak up, and I will try my best to answer your questions. Okay, now let's start with a sketch. Now, once you go and log in into Onshape, sometimes there is an advertisement or something which comes up right in the front. I'm not sure what you are looking at this point, but usually if you click on this Onshape logo on the top left of your screen, you will come up to this document, and sometimes you will have to create a new one. I'm not sure what you're looking into it, but you can usually create a new document right over here, and then you can click on that. And I'm going into, sorry, anyone was saying something? I couldn't hear. You can also type your questions in the chat box. If you have created a document, you can do this. Click on the create button and then create a document. And okay, let me start from here. So what I'll do is I'll click create. I'll click on document and let's say CAD workshop. And now I'm inside the document. Again, if I go back, click on this Onshape, you will see that this CAD workshop has come up in this list. Now, by default, you will have a part studio open, but you can also create new parts. If you click this plus button on the left, you will see that there are different options. Create part studio, create assembly, create drawing, create folder. Usually, we'll start with a part studio. So let me just create another one to keep a record. Now you can rename this part studio. Let's say I'll click on rename and I will type in a name. And in this part, you will see that you can see 3 planes, front, right, and top. These planes are basically representing the 3 axes, X, Y, and Z, and the planes between them. So you can see on the right corner, you will see that X and Z is visible, and Y over here is pointed the other way. That means from front to back is Y. Front is the plane that is between X-axis and Z-axis. Top is the plane that is between X and Y. And right is the plane between Y and Z. Now we'll start with the front. And to do a 2D sketch on this, you will have to click on this sketch button. Select front, you can select it from this part, or you can also click over here in the features, and then you can click on sketch. Sketch will give you features that are only available for drawing. On the top, I'm not going to describe all of them explicitly, but with the different sketches that we are going to do, we will learn a few of them as we go through. This is also being recorded, so we'll have the option of looking back at the recording and try yourself afterwards. Now, once the sketch has started, you can click on this front. You'll see that if you click on this front, the view changes. So now you are looking at the front view. If you don't want these planes to be visible, you can actually hide them by clicking on this eye on the left. So if you click on that, it becomes invisible or hidden. You can also unhide them by clicking it back again. So I'm going to hide the front to make it more easy to understand what's going on. Now, before I start, I will say that with respect to drawings, there are 2 fundamental ways to draw. One is using solid lines, and the other one is using dotted lines. You will see that there's a button right on the top which says construction. Construction will give you the opportunity to draw dotted lines. Now, what are dotted lines? Dotted lines are basically supporting lines which help you to achieve a particular type of drawing or sketch, but it actually is not a part of that. So these are more like supporting structures that are used while a building is made or something equivalent. And that's why it is called a construction mode, and this line is known as the construction line. If you uncheck that button, and then if you draw a line, this is a solid line, and that is an integral part of the sketch, whereas this is not. This is more like helping to achieve your desired sketch. Now, how to delete lines? If you click on this line and click on the delete button on your keyboard, you will have the option of deleting it. You can also use this scissor icon. If you click on that, it says trim. It is also going to delete it. If you want to select multiple things together, you can use your mouse and draw a box surrounding the objects, and then you can click your delete button on the keyboard. Okay, now we'll try to draw what is given on the left hand side of the screen. I hope you all can see this. So let's start with a circle. Now this icon will give you the option to draw a circle, and the drop down on the side of this has got different options. We are not going to discuss all of them. Let's start with the basic one, which is like a center point circle. It is similar to drawing a circle using a compass. We all have done it in school. It's like a compass where you will select a point, and then you are actually drawing a circle around it. Now, we can't draw arbitrary shapes. There are dimensions attached with it. Dimensions means measures. So as we see on the right hand side in the PDF document that is open, you'll see that this is marked with R39.5. What does that mean? That actually means the radius of this circle is 39.5. So we are going to set the dimension, and how to do that? You'll see that there is an icon right on the top which says dimension. You can click on it, and you can click on this, and you will find the dimension comes up. Now if you click anywhere, now it will give you the option to change it. Now before changing it, let me tell you that this symbol is that of a diameter. A circle which is crossed out, that is the symbol of a diameter. Now if you have to set the diameter, that has to be the double of this. So what is the double of 39.5? 79. Now the reason it is shown as a diameter is that conventionally in CAD or in engineering drawing, circles are denoted, or circles or holes, they are denoted with a diameter, whereas something that has a curvature but it is not entirely a circle is denoted by a radius. Anyway, we will not bother about that. We'll just set 79, and that changes the diameter of the circle. Now next, what we'll do is, as you see on the left, there are construction lines, and this circle, as you can see, is also a construction line. So let's draw. So we'll press the construction button, and then we'll press the line button, and we'll draw some lines of arbitrary length. The length doesn't really matter for construction lines. Again, we'll press the construction, and we'll press the line button and draw a construction line. The third construction line is actually going to be circular in nature. Now the third button that we are going to use is an arc. Previously we used circle, now we are going to use arc, which will give you the option to draw a semicircle or a part of a circle. Again, what we are going to choose is we are going to choose center point arc. It is again like drawing an arc using a compass. You will select the center and then you will draw an arc. I will click on that. I will click the center and I'm going to draw a half circle in construction. Now we will change the dimension again. So I will click on this dimension and I will click on this. Now you see, as I said, that for curvatures that are not a full circle, the dimension by convention comes up as a radius. And what is the radius for this one? The radius for this is actually half of what you can see over here. This one says a diameter of 55. That means the radius is going to be 27.5. Okay. Now we need another arc, as you can see over here on the right, but this is a solid line. So we are out of the construction mode, but we will again select center point arc. We will click on the center. We will draw an arbitrary arc and then use our dimension button to select the dimension. And what is the dimension over here? As you can see, it says 31. So we can say that this that's diameter of 31. That means it is 31 divided by 2, which is 15.5. Okay. Next, you can see that this is more of a rectangular shape. So what we can do is we can click on this button. Now there are multiple options to draw a rectangle. One is a center point rectangle, the other is a corner rectangle. We are going to use the corner rectangle. We will select one of the corners. We will select another corner. Oops. We'll select one of the corners and then draw a rectangle of arbitrary shape, and then we'll fix the dimensions. Now, when you start off from a corner, the rectangle is attached or joined to that corner. Any dimension that you do over here is referenced to that particular corner. In this case, we are going to set a dimension of 31. Now, what we need to do is we need to trim off some of the things. So as you see that there is a gap over here, we don't need some of these features. So what we are going to do is we are going to click on this trim button, and then we are going to trim the unwanted items. Now to double check that our dimension is intact, what we are going to do is we are going to select the dimension. Now if we have to find out the dimension between two lines, you click on one line. Usually by default the length of the line comes up, but once you go to the other line and select that one, the dimension between them will come up. Now we also need to trim the inside. So we will click on the trim button and we are going to trim these lines on the inside. Okay, the main part of the structure is done. We just now need 3 small circles of diameter 10. So we are going to click on the center point circle. We will draw 3 circles and then use our dimension button to set the dimension to 10. And that's done. So now, once you're happy with the desired sketch, you can click the green tick mark and your sketch is done. Usually what happens after this is you click on the sketch and then there is an extrude button. We will do more on the day we are doing parts. But this extrude button actually creates a 3D model. That means it extrudes that sketch in one of the selected directions and a 3D part is created. But we are not going to work on this way. We are just going to do sketches. So I'll leave it at that. And move on. So this is the first sketch. If you have any questions, you can speak out or type in the chat box. Otherwise, we will move on to the next one. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this sketch. I will select front again and then click on the sketch button. Now we are ready to go on and do the next sketch. As you see that in this sketch, there is a construction line to create a circle, and then there are 3 other construction lines which are at 120 degrees to each other. So first, let's create the construction circle. Again, it is a center point circle. What is the diameter of the circle? As you see that it is marked as 400. So I'm going to select the dimension button. I'm going to select this and set it to 400. Now next, we are going to create these 3 construction lines that are at 120 degrees to each other. So again, I'm going to click construction. I'm going to click line, and I'm going to draw 3 arbitrary construction lines. Now, we have to make sure that these are at 120 degrees to each other. How to do that? We are going to click on this dimension button. We will click one of the lines and then we will click the other line, and automatically you'll see that this angle shows up. And I'm going to set this to 120. Now we can do the same with respect to the other one. We'll select this and we'll select this. and type in 120. Now you have 3 lines that are 120 degrees to each other. Next, let's start with the circle at the center. That is the easiest part. So we can select center point circle. We will click on the center. We'll create a circle and use our dimension button to set the dimension for that, which is given to be 104. Next, we are going to draw these 3 circles, 1, 2, and 3. And these are of 50 millimeters each. That reminds me, I have not talked about the units used over here. I'm going to show it afterwards, but the default unit sets over here are millimeters, kilogram, and second. We are going to set this to 50. Again, we will draw another one. Now, as you see that when I'm bringing my mouse close over here, when both of these lines, this one and the curvature construction line becomes yellow or selected, that means you are trying to draw right at the intersection of these 2 lines. And then we are going to draw the 3rd circle. Again, as I said, that when I bring my mouse close, both of the lines get selected, and you will see that just below the mouse, if I move the mouse, that is going to go away, but just to the southeast of the mouse, you will see that there are 2 small icons showing up. That means that's a coincident icon. So you see that this particular icon, coincident, is showing up. There's 1 and there is 2 coincident buttons. That means the point I am selecting is coincident on both the construction lines. Now let's change the dimension to 50. Now the interesting part. Let's start by drawing 3 circles of diameter 100, and we'll go on from there. So again, we are going to select this point. Let's draw 3 circles first and set the dimension to diameter 100. Now, as you can understand that these curvatures are actually tangent to the outer circle. And how to draw these curvatures? Now we are going to learn something new. We will go to the icon of arc, select the drop down, and we can select the tangent arc. Tangent arc helps you to create a tangent between 2 lines. I will select one of these. Okay. Let's start with 3-point arc. Tangent arc is a different thing. It needs a line ending. 3-point arc, on the other hand, will help you to select the curvatures. Now, this can be inwards, this can be outwards, but let's keep it somewhere in middle. Doesn't matter, we are going to fix it up soon. So let's leave it over here. Now first, we have to make sure that these 2 are tangent. So what we'll do is we'll select, now over here, because my screen has been shortened, there are a few of the icons which are not showing up. Some of you will be able to see this icon straight away, but otherwise, if you cannot, there's a drop down, and that will help you to select some of the constraints. So these are known as constraints. Now I'm going to select a constraint button, tangent, and I will select this particular line and this particular curve, and that makes it a tangent. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll select this one and select this, and it will create a constraint tangent. That means now this line is actually a tangent to the curve. Once I've done that, now I'm going to set the dimension of this. And what is that? As you see on the right hand side, it says 345.52. I'm going to type that in, 345.52. And as soon as I press enter, you'll see that the curvature will change, but it will still remain a tangent. So the point of join between this line and this curvature actually shifted back, but it is still a tangent. That is how a constraint works. Now let's do this on the other two sides as well, so that you can check it out one more time. In the arc, we are going to select 3-point arc. What are the 3 points? The first point is this curvature. The second point is this curvature on the boundary of the circle. And the third point decides the radius. Now I'm going to select an arbitrary radius, and first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this constraint and set that constraint between this line and this curve. I'm going to do the same again on this line and this curve. And now I'm going to set the dimension of this to be 345.52. You will again notice that as soon as I press enter, these points are going to shift, but it will still remain tangent. We are going to do the same thing on the last part. So again, we are going to select 3-point arc. We'll select this curvature. We'll select this curvature. Select an approximate radius. Now let's set the constraint first. Let's set this constraint. And now I'm going to change the radius to 345.52. Now, once this is ready, we are going to trim off the unnecessary items from this sketch. So I'm going to click on this trim button. I'm going to trim this one, and you'll see that there are 2 small segments inside. So we need to trim those ones as well. Again, on this side, I'm going to trim the small lines. And here, I'm going to trim this lines. And now your sketch is ready. You can press this green button, and then if you want to extrude this, you can click on the extrude button, which I'm not going to discuss in details, but as you see, that part will become a 3D model. So we are done with sketch number 2. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box. Otherwise, I'm going to hide this, and then we are going to move on to the third one. Again, we are going to select the front plane and click on sketch. We are moving on to sketch 3. As you see now, this one has got 2 construction lines, and let's start with those construction lines. I'm going to arbitrarily draw two construction lines. Now let's start with 2 circles. So as you see that the top one is actually a circle, and this bottom one is also a circle. The top one has a diameter of 82, and the bottom one has a diameter of 30. Let's make this 82, and then let's draw an arbitrary circle. Set this to 30, but now we need to make sure that they are at a known distance apart. So what we are going to do is, after clicking the dimension button, we are going to click this center and this center, and you will see that a dimension pops up between these 2 points. And we can set this to 150. Now, these 2 are at a known distance apart. Okay. Now, what's next is we are going to draw a straight line. So maybe we can actually start with a rectangle. There are different ways of drawing this, but it's up to you which way you select. You can draw only a line that is completely vertical, or you can also start with a box and then later delete the unnecessary options. So let's try with a box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another construction line to help us, and I will select a corner rectangle. I will select this corner point, and I will just draw an arbitrary box. I need to set the dimension between these 2 lines, and that is going to be 30. Now let's first trim the unnecessary lines. So I don't need this. I can trim this off. And also here below, I can trim the unnecessary lines. Now we have come to a point where we need to create a curvature on the top part. Let me have some water. Now, as you see on the right hand side, there is a curvature, whereas we have a sharp joint. Now, how to change that? We can use something that is known as a fillet. This fillet will help us to create a curvature between these 2 lines. So I'm going to select this button. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select that. And you'll see that a dimension comes up. And if you double click on that, you can change this, and let's make this to 50. So what happens is a nice curvature of radius 50. We are going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to click on this fillet button. Then I'm going to select this line, and I'm going to select this curve. And this is already set to 50. So I'm going to right click, and you get a nice curvature. So our outer sketch is done. Now let's create the easiest inner part, which is the inner circle of diameter 20. So we can straight away click on the circle. Of course, this is center point circle. We'll select the center, create an arbitrary circle, and then change the dimension of that circle to 20. Now on the inner part, what we have is a hexagon. Now Onshape has a special feature which helps you to easily achieve this polygon. Not all CAD softwares have this, but I usually use 3 different CAD packages. Onshape has this feature which is quite good. Now once you select that, let's click on the center, and let's select a point. Now as you see that there is an option which helps you to choose how many sides do you want. You can change those. So I'm going to press somewhere else, go outside, and then change this number. So now it is showing 22. I'm going to change this to 6. Now I have to shift this point. So as you see that there is a joint right at this point, but whereas in my case, it is reversed. Let me see if I can fix this up. So if I select this coincident point, select one of these and select this line, it's probably not working. So I guess I'll have to do it when I'm creating the hexagon. So let's go back. We'll try it one more time. I don't really use this polygon feature, so forgive my ignorance on this part. Yes, so I'll have to select this point, and now here we can select 6. If you want, you can change this particular number to anything else. Now once this is done, I'll have to select an appropriate dimension. So the one that I'm going to select over here is 25, as shown on the right hand side. And now it is done. So we have our desired sketch, and if you want, you can click this button and it's done. Now one thing that I can recognize is that while we are creating this inner one, for some reason, all of this has become a construction line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this structure and do it one more time. It has to be in solid lines. So I will click on that again click on the point. And now set the dimension to 25. So now that one is done. It actually has got some unwanted dotted lines over here, which I'll have to clear off, but we can do that later on. And that's why it is saying that it did not regenerate properly. So when I was deleting it, probably some of the points were not deleted properly, but because of the shortage of time, let's leave it at that. We'll have to clear this one off to do it, I think. Let's probably this anyway. We'll come back to that maybe afterwards. Now let's quickly, this is something that is a bit complex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with that and see how much we proceed. So I'm going to hide this sketch, select the front plane, start with the new sketch. Now again, usually it is best to select appropriate construction lines and then proceed with the figure. So what I will do is I will draw a few construction lines first. So let's start with a vertical construction line. No harm being long enough. So let's assume that this point is our center, that one. So I will draw another construction line. Now let's first find out all the relevant locations and then we can proceed. Now, first of all, we can find out from this particular diagram that the distance between this point and the bottom line is 50. So we can say that this one and this one is 50 apart. Now just below that point, we need to have another construction line. Let's say we draw it at this point, and the dimension between them is 15. So over here, you can see that this is 15. Then there is another construction line that is 65 apart from the top point. So let's draw another construction line and we'll set the dimension to 65. And then the last one is 90. So let's select this and this, and we can set that to 90. Now we have more or less all the things that are required. Now, there are again many ways of doing it, but let's first start with fundamental features. What I'm going to do is, as you can see, this is actually a rectangle. So we can start with a rectangle. Let's select any point and we will create a rectangle. Now, what is the dimension of this lower side? It is 70. But because it is equidistant from the center, we also need to set that. So we are going to set the center line and select one of the sides and set it to 35. Next, what we'll do is we'll create another rectangle at the top location. This one we are going to do with something known as a center point rectangle. A center point rectangle is more like a circle. You get to select the center and then you draw the rectangle reference from that center. Now, what is the side? One of the sides, the largest one, the larger one is 50. So we can set that to 50, and the smaller one is 20. It has also got inner rectangle and two half circles. So we can start with the inner rectangle again as a center rectangle. We'll draw arbitrary rectangle and then set the dimensions. The side larger one is 30. And over here, as you see that the radius of this curvature is given as 5. That means the diameter and the side of the rectangle is 10. So we can set that to 10. Now the curvatures on the side over here are actually fillets, and this curvature is actually an arc. So we can select center point arc. We can select this center and create an arc. Again, select the center and create an arc. And then we can trim off this unnecessary lines. Now next, we can draw another arc right over here. As you see that this arc is of radius 25. So we can select the center point arc. Select a point, draw an arc, and then set the radius to 25. Now next, what we are going to do is we are going to draw this inner shape over here. So first of all, we need to create two lines. So we can draw some arbitrary line, set the dimension first. So here we have 30, but it has to be equidistant. So we need to check that as well. What we are going to do is we are going to select the center line and this point, and this should be half of the line length. In this case, it is 15. Same thing has to happen on this line. So we will create another small line, set the dimension of that line as 11, and then make sure that this is halfway through. We'll select this point and this line, and that should be 5.5. Next, what we have to do is we can create this 3-point arc. We will select one of this point, one of that, leave it at some arbitrary point, and then change the dimension. In this case, it is 110. As you can see right over here. We should do the same on the other side as well. Leave it at some arbitrary point, and then we will set this dimension again to 110. The last bit is to have the outer curvatures. So we can do the same. We can use a 3-point arc. But first, it's easier. So as you see that this point starts off at a location which is best marked off prior. So what we are going to do is we can go to construction lines. We can click on line. And create a construction line over here. We can do the same on the other side. This helps us to find out the marking locations. And now we can go and select 3-point arc. We can select this point. We can select that one. Leave it at some arbitrary location. And then change the dimension to 110. We can do the same on the other side. So we will select 3-point arc, select this point, select that, leave it at some arbitrary location, and then change the dimension to 110. Lastly, we would have to trim some of these lines that are unnecessary. Create a circle over here and over here, but we need to make sure that the center points are known distance apart. So as you see that this center point is 10 apart from one of the sides, the closest side. We will set that to 10. Make sure that the diameter is what is required. The diameter is also 10. We will do the same on the other side. And that is 10, and the diameter is also 10. Lastly, we just have to finish this off with a fillet that we have learned before already. So we'll have to change this to 5, do the same. And now it's done. I think we have to trim off two other more lines, which is this one and this one. And you're free to create an extrude. Okay, so I think our time is more or less up. So what you can do is you can practice the last one yourself, and you are free to email me if you want or any help required. On Monday, we will have our second session for 3D parts. I think I have emailed the timings, but let me just find out one more time. In the chat box, I'm putting in the time for Monday. Any questions so far? I'm happy to show the last bit if you are going to stick around. Do you want me to do the last one? Or if not, that's fine. You can practice it yourself. Any questions?
Do we have to register again, or we can just?
You can use the same link. You can use the same link for Monday.
Okay.
I have also put it in the chat box, and I think you got the email. It's the same link. You can click on that to log in.
So next day we'll practice the 3D part.
Yes. So next day we are going to do this file. Some of them, maybe we cannot finish all of them, but I will try to do as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any other link or something to practice more? Or you can just send us the email or different types of pictures so we can practice. So it will be helpful.
Have you received this file? I have sent this file to the registrants. I'm not sure if you have received this file. If not, what you can do is you can send your email address in the chat box, and I will try to send you this file.
Okay, thank you.
If you want, I can quickly finish the last bit, this one. Do you want me to do it? If you want, I can quickly show you how to do this one. It's basically the same as whatever we have done so far. You need to create a circle first, and you need to create an arc. Nothing new. So whatever buttons we have learned so far can be used to do the last one.
So how can I do the upper part of that?
Okay, let me what I'll do is I will quickly do this for you. You can also practice later on. So let's start with this circle, which is the easiest bit. I'll click on center point circle and create a circle. Set the diameter. In this case, the diameter is 100. Next, what I'll do is I will click construction, click on circle again, and create a construction line. Set the diameter This is 70. Now, as you see that there are a few more construction lines. Let me zoom in to select the angles. So here we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There are 6 circles. Now, traditionally, there are 2 ways of doing it. Either you create a circle and then you create a pattern, or you create construction lines. Now, there is a circular pattern. Let me try to do it in that way. So what I will do is I will create one construction line, set the angle. Now the other way, as I was saying, is you create construction lines that are 60 degrees away from each other. Let me try to do the pattern. I have actually not used pattern in Onshape. Onshape is not something that I use regularly. I usually use excuse me, some other commercial packages for work. It will be a learning for me as well. So first, let's set this angle to 60. Next, what we'll do is we'll create a circle, check the dimension. The dimension of this circle is 10. Now what I will do is I will try to create a circular pattern about this center, and I can see that it's saying 3x. So I'll double click this and select 6, and it actually works. So now if I right click, you'll see that all 6 circles are showing up. Okay, so here we have used a circular pattern to create or to generate all the 6 circles directly. Now once that is done, let's move on to the upper part. Okay, in the lower part there is a one inner circle that is still left behind. So what I will do is I will create that quickly. And this dimension is 40. Next, I will need a few more construction lines. I'll go into construction mode, click on a line, create a vertical construction line, and then I need another construction line passing straight through this point. I can actually change the angle later on. And I need another construction line. Let's make sure that the angle is what we desire. This is 30. This one is 30. The reason it came up in light gray is that this dimension is already done before. So this is the dominating, this is called the dominating dimension, and this is the hidden dimension. Okay, so next what we have to do is we also need this hidden line, sorry, this construction line, and that is of, do we know the dimension? If we don't know some dimensions, we can actually calculate from here. If this dimension is 90, and if this radius is 10, that means the center line over here is actually at 80. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into construction mode again. I'll create a center point arc, create this, create a center line, and make sure our dimension is as desired. This is 80. Here we are. Now let's create another arc, center point arc. Between this one, and that is the outer arc that we are trying to achieve, and this is going to be 100. Next one, we will do this 90. Again, from here to here, let's check the dimension. We will make this 90. Then the lowest one will be 70. We'll click here. We'll click somewhere. Check this dimension and make it 70. Okay. Now there are two half circles that we can easily make. Okay. Now for the outer one, this is a bit tricky. So let's see what we can achieve. We will use the center point arc. Click on the center, click on this point and create an arc up to this point. Next, we will do the same thing on the other side. Now what we will do is we will create a 3-point arc between this one, and we will leave it at an arbitrary location. Again, as I said, we need to create a tangent constraint. We'll select this and make it a tangent to this curvature. Also, again, we'll select this and click on that to make these two tangents. Once that is set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if the radius is as desired. So this radius is given as 10. I'm going to select 10. Once that is done, I'm going to trim off this unnecessary line. We will do the same thing on the other side. We'll use 3-point arc. Select one of this, select the other one, click here. Use this constraint. This is a tangent constraint. Click on this curve and this one. That becomes a tangent constraint. Again, this and this to make it a tangent constraint. Now, once that's done, I'm going to set the radius 10 and then delete the unnecessary line. Now that's done, we can actually extrude this to create a 3D shape. Okay. So I guess that's the end of the file. I will try to send you this file to the email addresses that you have provided. Any questions? If not, then I will end this workshop over here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sending in the email addresses. I will surely send you the file by the end of today.